With us now is Jeff Krasner, and we're going to be talking about his real estate career and also his experience in the entertainment industry. I was lucky enough to meet him through a good friend, Leslie Gold, the radio chick, at her Gong show, and here he is on set with me today. Jeff, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Good morning. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you. What a great show that was the other night.
Yeah, they've been doing this quite a few years, and every time it sells out, the entertainers are tremendous, and we had a blast.
Lots of laughs.
Lots of laughs. It was great. I think the after party is just as much fun as the actual show.
Absolutely. That was really nice. They had it at a restaurant. We had a great time. So tell me, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, your real estate or your entertainment background?
As I was mentioning earlier, I went to school in Boston, and I met a gentleman by the name of Michael Epstein, who's known as Epi, who owns a club called My Father's Place. And today, many folks still think it's still available. The club is still physically open, the brick and mortar's part of it. But this was in the late 60s where I had booked a band that actually charted in the top 10. Epi came back to Long Island. I stayed in Boston for 5 years, having a blast, living in a co-ed dorm. Why wouldn't I stay? And he came back later, and I was actually in Long Beach, went back to Boston again. So the early years, I kind of didn't stick with Epi. We hooked up about 25 years ago, and we've been promoting shows ever since.
Wonderful. What was that band that charted? What was that first success?
The band was called Orpheus. They had a big song called Can't Find the Time, which you're going to have to really Google it, but once you hear the melody, you're going to go, I know that song, And they're coming back to New York, actually, first time in 45 years.
Seems to be a resurgence in that the bands that were that the boomers loved are like somehow now, right, making a big resurgence. Why do you think that is? Why is that happening?
Well, one reason I think because the music industry has changed tremendously, that it's funny because the smaller bands that charted, let's say in the 60s, 70s, there's not a big audience for them. So if they play smaller venues and they tandem themselves with other groups, 2 or 3 of them on one bill, they'll sell the place out. Where if you get a band that could have had a couple of top 10 hits in the 60s, they're not going to fill the arenas like the Springsteens or the U2s or the McCartneys of today. So there's a market for the smaller groups, for the smaller venues.
It's kind of nice, too, to have that intimate experience with songs that you know, that you recognize, and the players are still loving to perform. I also realize that in order to use the name of a band, you have to have at least one original member. That's a law, or is that a real, legit law, or is that... It's just something made up?
That's a good question. This has come up many, many times because I'll go to listen to a group, which happened to me recently, and I don't know if I should drop names, but it doesn't matter. It was the Drifters.
Okay.
And one of the background singers, who was probably a fill-in 50 years ago, had the license to use the name, and it's so-and-so and the Drifters. And I said, that's not the Drifters. And sure enough, nobody showed up because it wasn't the Drifters. So yeah, they do take license, not physical license, to use the name and perform, which doesn't work for me. I want the original band.
You want them as much as possible, yeah.
For sure.
So, and now how did that blend into your real estate career? What are you doing in real estate now, and what's the name of that?
It's JMK Realty Group. It's my own company. About 1980, I got into the business, and I worked for a major Long Island developer, shopping centers, condos, and it got into my blood from day one. And 2 years later, I owned an office, owned and managed, but never really left my roots in the music business. So basically, I have a lot of clients in the music industry, and I deal with the personal property. So it kind of works out.
Works out lovely for you.
The passion is the music business. One pays the bills, but I've had a very successful real estate business for 35 years, and I still do to this day.
Now, tell me something memorable, and I know you've got a lot of funny memories, but is there like one that you could share with us, like entertainment related maybe, that sticks out for you as a special moment?
Where's my notes? No, funny in the entertainment business.
Or something that you enjoyed. One night where you said, you know what, this is a great night, and even if I wasn't getting paid, this is where I want to be.
I can think of one off the top of my head. Probably about 12 years ago, 10 years ago, we were doing shows in a small venue in Westbury. And it was a catering hall, but we kind of transformed it into a music hall. And we'd have several hundred people. And we actually had Elvin Bishop in that night, which was a blues player from back in the day, probably a little bit before you, Donna. And during the set, Clarence Clemens walked in from the Springsteen band. And everybody said, Clarence, what are you doing? And he played for about 45 minutes. So we'll do a lot of events. I don't know if it's that funny, but it's true, where we'll bill the headliner, and a lot of musicians will just come in because they're buddies. We did a show actually with, I'm not sure if Leslie was there, talking about Leslie at the Bolton Center Last year, we had Gene Cornish from the Rascals and
Love
Friends.
him. He's been on the show.
Gene has been on the show.
Yes, love him.
I just did a full interview with Gene, and we haven't released it yet.
Okay.
He's trying to coordinate it with a new record, if we still call them records. I don't know what you call them anymore, but it was billed Gene Cornish and Friends, basically. The Dangerous Lovers is the name of his band. But they had Carmine, Leslie's boyfriend. Tommy James showed up, and it was actually a who's who of musicians on stage. So we never really know when we bill a particular artist who's going to show up at times. That's what makes the business fun.
Love
the element
it.
of surprise, so to speak. Who's backstage, you just don't know.
Right.
It's great.
Something's happening, something magical.
Yeah.
So you were saying to me that a lot of times you're putting together multiple groups and performing a show. Do you have some venues coming up? Like, where can we find you?
I've done work. I just came out of a big show at the Madison Theater at Malloy College, if you're familiar with them.
Very.
You are.
Yeah.
Angela Fraboni over there is a friend of mine. I'm connected up with the Space in Westbury, which is an incredible venue if you ever get a chance to get there. They're open almost 3 years. We did a show called Steel Pulse there last week. They've got the Fab Four coming again, which is a great band of mine. It's a Beatle tribute band, which is the only tribute band I will ever listen to. But between the Space and some of the larger venues, I do promos for it. Epi's new so-called venue now is the Lighthouse Waterfront Cafe in Glen Cove.
Oh, very nice.
He does a lot of stuff Wednesdays and Thursday evenings, so you could always go to their website. Or Jeff Krasner Productions for my stuff, hooked up with Epi and whomever. And it seems that although the music business has been in decline, venues are opening up. They're building one in, I think, Coney Island right now, the amphitheater there. And they have a lot of major groups going on. So the music is far from dead. It's almost being revitalized. Not so much the record industry, because with the downloads and God knows what's out there, I can't even keep track of it anymore. I pick up a CD, my daughter asks me what the CD is, you know.
Right, but live music is back.
It's coming back. A lot of smaller venues, but Nassau County is so saturated with all the Live Nation and the places like the Space. You could go almost 2 miles and find a venue. So if you go up to Westchester or other states, you got to go 50 miles to find another venue. So they get larger audiences there, at least for the size of the place that they're doing the show. But yeah, it's in my blood. We've been doing it forever, and it's a blast.
Okay, so if a new venue needed to book acts, or if somebody has a big charity event, they could call you to get some name, talent. That sounds wonderful. And your real estate business?
Real estate business
your
is
day gig?
It's my day gig, but like I said, I've been doing it for 35 years. It's the JMK Realty Group, mostly condos, residential, Nassau County. So call me anytime you'd like.
Absolutely.
So whether it's music, talent, real estate, we're here to work with the public and do the best we can, for sure.
Or a dinner date, you never know.
Dinner date.
There
hey,
you go.
Lots of Leslie says, maybe you'll get lucky on the TV show.
There, maybe you will.
Know?
Jeff,
Absolutely.
thank you very much for being
My
here.
pleasure.
So
Thanks
good to
for
have you
having
here.
me.
Okay,
Great.
stay tuned for more on Live It Up. I'm Donna Drake. We've been visiting with Jeff Krasner.